Hi, this is Gary with MacMost Now. On today's episode, let's take a look at the new iPod Nano. So this is the 7th generation of the iPod Nano, and of course before that was the iPod Mini, and then all the different generations of the iPod, now the iPod Classic. This new one's a little bit bigger than the 6th generation one, which a lot of people wore as a watch. It's still pretty light, and it's even thinner than that one. It doesn't have the clip on the back. And it has a lot of the same basic functionality. It has a touch screen and you can control it with that. But in addition to that, it's got a home button on the bottom just like an iPod Touch does. But it doesn't run iOS. It doesn't have any apps you can install. It doesn't work at all like an iPhone or an iPod Touch. And of course it is much, much smaller and lighter than any iOS device. It's actually really tiny. But the good news is in this new generation you can once again watch videos on the Nano as you could say in the 5th, 4th generation iPod Nanos. You've got a wake and sleep button at the top. You've got the home button there. And then on the bottom you have the connectors for your headphones and also for the Lightning dock connector. On the side you've got volume controls, and they're kind of like the ones that you find on more advanced earpods. There's the up and down volume, but you can press the center there to pause your music. On the side you've got volume controls, and they're kind of like the ones that you find on more advanced earpods. There's the up and down volume, but you can press the center there to pause your music. So here's the basic interface. You see 6 icons on a screen. You can swipe to go to the next screen to see more icons. And you can tap on any to go into that part of the iPod. So let's go into here, and then you can go into, say, artists and keep digging down until you finally are playing a song. And then you have your controls at the bottom, volume and pause and such. Tap in the middle there and you get the shuffle controls and repeat controls, things like that. And then you can swipe in the other direction to go back as many steps as you want, all the way back to the home screen. Now you also have other things you can go into, say videos, and I've got one video here, and you can tap it to go in and play it, and video always plays in horizontal mode, and then you turn it back to vertical mode for controls. You can of course sync music, podcasts, photos, all sorts of things. Here I've synced the MacMost podcasts, so I can go and watch that on here as well. At any time you can always tap the home button to go back to the home screen. And then you've got photos. Go into there and you can sync photos and photo albums. And when you're in photos you can actually flip the screen either way. So if I flip it this way I can now view it in the horizontal mode. But of course since I'm shooting straight down it's kind of hard to show you. But either way you do it, you can definitely zoom in using kind of familiar pinch controls. Now in addition to the basic iPod playback stuff, you've of course got fitness. So under fitness you've got your Nike Plus stuff, and you also can use the iPod as a pedometer. So you can have it just basically guess the number of steps you're taking as you jog or walk. There's also a radio built in. It's an FM radio, and you can go between stations, and you can also have it pause music playback, and it'll work kind of like a DVR where you can pause and then fast forward and get through commercials even, or rewind by 30 seconds. It'll also tell you the name of the station and songs at the top like you might get in your car. And in addition to that, you can also set it to know some stations. So let's see if I can bring that control up here. There you go. And then I've got the local stations all programmed in, and then you can actually program these and reprogram these. So you can basically have all the local stations in there and jump between them rather than just searching through the dial. Like the previous Nano, you have clock functionality, so you can bring that up. It's a little too big to be worn as a watch, but you have that anyway. And then under settings, you have various different settings. So you've got, say, your general settings where you can set things like brightness and the wallpaper. And notice that the wallpaper here, it's all variations of red because I've got the red iPod Nano. You can adjust date and time, various things, language, and accessibility options as well. You could also have settings for music, and it's stuff that we're used to seeing in iPod and iPod apps. For video, for radio, you can disable live pause if you want, and for photos. So it's also useful to know that under the music app you can go into playlists and you can create a new playlist. Swipe down and I can add, and then from there I would go in and select a song to start with and hit the plus, and I can continue to add more songs. Swipe back, go to other albums, add a song, and when I'm done I hit done, and then I can see the playlist there, and then it'll be listed as new playlist 1, and that'll sync back to my Mac and iTunes later on. You could also create Genius playlists. So you go into playlists, and from there you tap Genius, and it's going to ask you to choose a song. So you pick one song out of your collection for it to base the playlist on, and then once you do it, it'll think for a little bit. So here you can see what it's selected, and I can swipe down here and actually save that as a regular playlist, or I can hit refresh as well. Now the Nano comes with a set of earpods that do not have a microphone on them, but if you plug in ones that do, like you buy them independently or maybe you have them from your iPhone, here's what you get. You get a new app that appears called Voice Memos, and you can actually record voice memos as you could on previous versions of the Nano that supported this. There's no microphone built into the actual body. It has to be on the earpods. One interesting thing that you can do with an iPod Nano that you can't do with, say, an iPod Touch is you can use it as kind of a USB drive. You can plug this into your Mac and have it hooked up with the Lightning connector to USB, and actually it will mount and allow you to put files on here and take files off of it. So I can't emphasize enough how this is not an iPod Touch. You cannot install apps on it. You can't play games on it. There's no games at all. You can't actually change the functionality from what's on there. It's basically for loading up music, listening to the radio, using the fitness controls on here, and playing back video. You have to sync it with a computer in order to get stuff on here. There's no way to contact the internet or network or do anything wirelessly with this. And it's quite a shock if you're used to using an iPhone and iPod Touch now to go to a device like this where you basically sync it to your computer, and then all the music that's on it stays on it and nothing changes until you sync again and change things. It's of course how iPods have worked since the very beginning, but now in the era of iOS devices we're used to actually communicating wirelessly with everything and adding songs and streaming music from the internet. It's important to remember this device isn't like that at all, and it's just a standard iPod. So this is a good device if you want something that's ultra light and can carry your music. Maybe you can load some videos on here. Maybe if you don't use an iPhone, or if you use an iPhone but you don't want to take it with you when you do physical activities like jogging or at the gym or something like that, then this might be a nice little companion. Or for a kid who is too young to have one of the iOS devices, this is a nice one to be able to have some music and maybe have some video that they could watch on car trips and plane trips and such. So it's actually a pretty cool piece of technology, except for the price. It's $149. For $199 you can get an iPod Touch, and that connects to Wi-Fi. You can add apps to it. You can make it do different things. You can send email, and you can surf the web. All the stuff that you can't do on here. And it's only a $50 difference, which seems a little too close for me. If this was a sub $100 device, I think it would be a lot more useful. So I hope you found this look at the new iPod Nano useful. Till next time, this is Gary with MacMost Now. Want more video tutorials? Just go to MacMost.com, click on the videos link at the top of the page, and then you can view all of the hundreds of MacMost videos by category.